Yep. As normal. Although nothing is normal in this world.
Playing hard, playing tough, just playing good is not good enough. We're gonna show you what league's all about. If there's a lesson to be learned, we're handing it out. This game is our game.
Good evening and welcome to the Joust. My name is Nagy. I'm here as always with my co-host Liam McNeil. Liam, is your throat substantially cleared now from the coughs?
Tis indeed, yes. I've had the coughs all week, but yes, it is cleared.
Was it from shouting? Was it from shouting at the screen on Sunday night?
Look, that played a large part of it, shouting at the screen. Also shouting to have my order heard at King Street Macca's later on that evening. That was quite a crowd.
It absorbs the sound, that building. You know, it's
It
always
also
echoey.
absorbs the scum of Newcastle. It's like a magnet.
It really is. You find the worst there at King Street Macca's.
Hence, I was there.
Yes. How's the food there? I haven't eaten there in a
Oh,
while.
it's delightful. It's a wonderful restaurant. It's really good.
That's the main thing.
Yeah.
It's as long as they keep...
24 nuggets for $10.
That's insane.
How are they making money on that?
I know.
It's wonderful.
I think nuggets is really cheap to make.
Oh, and they're delicious. Yeah.
Now, but Liam, it was Easter Sunday. It was our very first birthday. We're now 1 year old. We're practically ancient.
Did you eat your chockies?
On Sunday,
Anytime?
I was sort of eating them leading up to Easter, like a Good Friday. I'd already bought a few, and then by the time like Sunday came around, I was like, oh, I'm sort of over chocolate. But I eat it sort of year round. Easter loses its appeal when you can buy your own chocolate, basically. Doesn't It's a lot better when chocolate has to be given to you. But then you realise it's like $3 and you're like, oh, I'll just get it all the time.
I could just purchase that at will.
Now, Liam, there was a game on Sunday.
Yes.
The Knights vs Dragons. And look, we didn't come away with the chockies.
Nice. Good segue.
Yes. 30 to 12. We went down to the Dragons. Obviously watched it at the Commonwealth Hotel for our very first birthday. Had a fantastic evening despite the result. But Liam, I have to ask you about the game. What went right for you with the game? I know we lost, but what went right? What did you like about it?
Actually, a few things went right. You know, I think a lot went wrong, obviously, to contribute to the loss. But safe to say that Newcastle did not play terribly. You know, I think in the past, games like that would have blown out. They would have been, a much larger scoreline than what we saw on Sunday. And I think it was really good that the Knights they hung in there. They still looked dangerous in attack towards the end.
Yeah.
The defence could have used a bit of work, obviously, to leak 30 points. But, you know, at no point did the Knights look like they were down and out, busted, done, not competing at all. They were still putting in right up until, you know, the final minutes, which I think was good. And I thought our attack was very good, you know, especially running through the pong. Have we got a sound for that, Nagy? The pong.
The pong.
You know, every time we were in the Dragons' half, we looked dangerous. And, you know, we scored a few tries. I think the Hyington try was a bit soft. Well architected.
Yeah.
Is that the word? Architected?
We're going to use it.
Well, yeah, well architected, well put together, but probably a bit on the soft side. But, you know, it seemed like every time we were attacking in the Dragons' half, we did show some promise, and we did look a wee bit dangerous.
Yeah, I think as far as me, I did like our attack. Like a lot of it didn't come off in that final moments, but leading up to it, you know, we couldn't apply a lot of pressure, couldn't get a lot of repeat sets, and that's where I think players like Mitchell Pearce and Brock Lamb score a lot of points and create a lot of tries, is when we're building pressure, and that's when we've seen tries come from, you know, around the fringes of the second rowers. Now, I did like it, right on half-time. I think it was a real moment, because we nearly did what every team does to us when Dragons had a lead, and it was 20 to 12, and in the final seconds, a pass was called back. It went from, I think, Daniel Safidi back on the inside, but the pass was called back to be forward. If it wasn't called forward, Mitchell Pearce is away down the middle.
Under the post. It
looked like he only had the fullback to beat with players and support. That could have been, you know, we could have gone in 2018, completely different game, and everyone views Mitchell Pearce's performance very differently from that point of view, because obviously put Chris Hyington, a man in his 70s, over the line untouched. I love how Chris Hyington scored that try, because you could tell, like, coming from a player like myself, who when I was playing in the very, very amateur levels, didn't score many tries. I know it might shock you with my athletic physique that I wasn't a proficient try scorer, but it's when you get close to the line, you sort of realise, hang on, I'm over the line now. I've got to get this ball down as quickly as you can, and your legs sort of give out, and you put it down by your hips. And because it's a weird thing to dive
It's
forward.
not a stylish way to score a try, Nagy.
No. And I only did very few of those. But
well, I think that Heighton's try drought, I believe, stretches back to sometime in late 2015. So it was good to see him cross the stripe and get off the nudie run because there's a certain promise he made when he did win the premiership with the Sharks.
Yeah.
Promised James Maloney a certain surgical operation he'd get done downstairs that he has not followed through on. So it's good we don't want to see him nude.
The Prince Albert? Yeah.
No.
But it was, no, look, there was some good things to come up from it. But obviously, we made a lot of errors inside that 20, and it was really heartbreaking to see that. So I'll lead straight into what went wrong, Liam. What went wrong for you?
Well, you've just hit the nail on the head. It was those crucial errors. There was a 15-minute period where it just seemed like the Knights couldn't get out of the middle third of the field. Every time we'd take the ball out of our own half, working well out of our own 20, we'd get to the middle third, your 30-metre, 40-metre line. There'd be a knock-on. There would be a forward pass. It was just those little errors creeping back into the game that cruelled us so much last year. They're not happening as early as they were last year. They're no longer your first tackle coming out of trouble penalties, but they're still in that area where the Dragons are so dangerous, 30, 40 metres out, and it really just put the pressure back on. I mean, you do have to give a fair bit of credit to the Dragons' defence. I mean, Jack DeBellin forced three knock-ons with his just unbelievable chop tackling. He was just hitting right under the point of the ball with the shoulder. He was a meat axe. And, a lot of credit has to go to the defence of the Dragons making the errors as much as it, is to the detriment of the Knights.
Yeah, they forced the pressure.
They forced the errors now.
Yes, yeah, they really found them in us. And I love Jack DeBellin. I'm not sure if you caught the interview after when they asked, like, oh, Jack DeBellin, you had a great game. Origin's creeping up. They always talk about Origin around this time. And they're like, oh, how do you feel? And you're 18th man last year. And he's like, oh, yeah, I think I'm made for it. Like he didn't say
that made me so excited. Even though he'd just done a number on the Knights, I was really excited to hear a player say in an interview, I think I'm made for Origin. And I think I agree. I think he's got to be in consideration for it.
Yeah, ever since he got a bloody haircut and chopped that stupid top knot off.
You didn't like the top knot, did you, Nate?
I don't like top knots in general, Billy Barton. So I'm very glad that anyone that has a top knot who's a male or identifies as a male can just chop it off.
I missed the beard, though. He did look like the Viking, the guy from the Viking show that I've never watched.
Yeah, right, but the previews look amazing.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, fantastic. Liam, I have to ask you, was there any hats off for a player that you think did particularly well?
Yeah, look, I've still got to give my hats off to Slade Griffin. He's been featuring heavily in our hats off section. He had another great performance. There was 45 tackles, more good service out of the ruck, good defensive pressure. It was just kind of, he put in what's becoming a classic 80-minute Griffo performance, you know? He just gets out there, he does all the very small things, and he does them well, and he does them with intensity and at pace. And, it's hard for him when the rest of the team aren't quite living up to his level of effort. But, he's really leading by example, and I'm really liking Slade Griffin. I think he's been a remarkable signing. And, he gets my hats off again for the week. How about you, Nagy?
Well, I have to agree with you with Slade Griffin, except my hats off goes to the Pong. Another remarkable performance straight out of the gates. He just looks dangerous. He does he accelerates towards the line with that goose step. He goes in the angle, and he's just fooling defenders left, right, and centre. He's been looking dangerous, and I don't think there's a moment. Excuse me. I don't think there's a moment when he's on the field and he's playing that you don't still think we're in with a chance here, because he's just slippery. He's one of those...
And strong. He's hashtag pongstrong.
And it's one of those players that when you play against and you think yourself, I'm gonna wallop this bloke. He's only tiny. And you think, and then you even and then you think you're playing him, he's playing you. He's just too good. He's at the moment by the season. I think, Liam, you were saying earlier how he is leader of the...
he's tied for first on the Dally M leaderboard with 6 points.
6 points?
He's picked up points in 3 of our games so far.
Yeah, and I think he's tied with 5 other players. However, still first.
Still counts.
That's right, unless you're second, and then you drop right down to 6th, and then that's upsetting.
Isn't that strange? Our second is 6th,
yeah,
and first is 5th.
Yeah, it's all tied. The system's fallen to bits. but Liam, hats back on to a player that you think maybe didn't live up to.
Look, my hat's back on has to go to Brock Lamb this week. Now, what we have to remember, Knights fans, and seeing on the socials after the game, there was, it disturbed me how many calls there were to drop Brock Lamb. First of all, who are we going to put in his place? He's replacing Connor Watson. After that, who have we got? But secondly,
Jack
it's his...
Cogger.
The Cog.
Yeah.
But the Cog has played even less with Mitchell Pearce. It was his first game starting with Mitchell Pearce. He was rusty. He made a few errors, a couple of missed tackles. But again, it's combinations. It's a new side, essentially, especially with in the halves with Pearce and Liam starting now, it's a new halves combination. They're bound to have at least one shocker, which Liam has already got out of the way, which is good.
Yeah, get the shocker out of the way early.
We just need to give him time to develop his relationship with Pearce and let it happen. Stop telling Brownie to drop him.
I think it was funny. It was funny and sad at the same time because we obviously at the start of the season it looked like Brock Lamb might not have a spot in the side. Other teams were sniffing around, and the peanut gallery of the Knight supporters just led up with, we can't let him go. He's a Newcastle junior, and we've gotten this far, and we shouldn't have signed Connor Watson. We should hold on to Lamb. He has one bad game, and then it's suddenly like, what's he doing there? He's not up to first grade level. We should get rid of him. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You either support the guy through thick and thin, whichever one's good, whichever one's bad.
I think we worked out that it's thick is good.
I heard thin was good on reviewing it.
We haven't worked it out
thin was anyway. We can't work out any of these systems that we have. Look, we need to stick by him. If you want to support a player to say that we need to keep him, and you give him an opportunity, and he doesn't live up to that expectation, there's 22 rounds left in this season, and you think that he's not going to have better performances, or you think we should drop him down to reserve grade because he's going to find some form down there? He was only coming off the bench for the first 3 games. He's got an opportunity to start. He didn't live up at expectation, but that's football.
It's merely one single game. He showed us towards the back end of last year what he can do, and operating with a much more experienced halves partner, he was essentially a dominant half towards the end of last year. He now has to step back, and that's got to be a hard thing to do. I mean, you're seeing it at North Queensland. Their halves have gone to shit, and they've got the most experienced half that's ever played the game. Yeah. Michael Morgan, who's a superstar last year, and they're not gelling. So what chance do Pearce and Lamb have to do the same in their first game? Give the boy time.
Let the boys play.
Let the boys play.
Yes, no, I agree. And so that was so your hat's back on goes to Lamb this
Correct.
week. However, but maybe hopefully not next week.
No, hopefully not. It's again, the hat can be taken off and put on at will. It doesn't go on and stay on. It doesn't come off and stay off. We don't put it in the bin.
Yeah.
The hat can change its position throughout the year.
We're going to take our hats and put our hats on as we feel right. Unless we're at our nan's for dinner, then you have to just take it off.
Absolutely. We might buy new hats if we like. Don't tell us what to do with our goddamn hats.
Now,
we'll do it as we please.
Speaking of, my hat's back on. Goes to a player that I was sort of defending last week from a sack question. I think it was from Stephen Clark. Sent in asking, do you drop Jacob Lilliman because he's not living up to the first 3 performances? Underdone. And I said, no, look, he's just a little bit there. Like you maybe bench him like that. I am now back on. He's got to he's got to drop. He played 34 minutes, right? Probably got done up with a rotation because we lost Tao and had to sub someone on, but. Look, he played in the 34 minutes, only managed, I think, 4 hit-ups, 34 metres, did nothing.
Put the ox out to pasture, you reckon?
Oh, he just needs something. Put a firecracker up his backside.
But then he'll be injured and won't be able to play at all.
He'll be limping, but at least he'll show some feeling. Because it was
a lot of blood.
Look, yeah, it was just such an underdone performance. Like, he got outdone by every other forward on the paddock. And that was and they weren't remarkable either. And you could see that, we were probably starving for ball. Around those times that he was on. But no, come on, 4 hit-ups, that's just effortless.
It's not many.
No, it's just not enough.
And not up to the NRL standard.
Not up to his standard of just being a player of his caliber, or his age.
Or both.
Yeah. He only made 34 metres. He made a metre for every year he's been on the earth. I think he's only 32 or something. Anyway. But I have to say, Liam, there was something through the week that I was thinking about, and I was going to say, now it's 4 rounds in, and we say it's only early, and it is, and we're 2 from 2, we're 2 and 2, and the question is, there's players underperforming consistently in this pack that we probably had in our starting pack. Do you think there's anyone that might be form-wise looking just on as a conglomerate, as a 4-round? These players aren't meeting up to the standard that you'd hope to by now on every game.
For me, and this hurts me to say because he's been such a good clubman, one of our captains for years, I feel like Sione's having some real trouble going back to centre. He's having real trouble going back to centre, especially in defence. The reads in defences on the edges have been quite bad. He made a few shockers over the weekend that led to tries. And it kills me to say this because he's been such a great clubman. He was great in the back row. It just feels like he's having some real trouble readjusting to that centre role, especially with the fairly compressed defensive line the Knights are working with.
Yeah.
In tight in the middle of the ruck where he's defending as a second rower. These decisions weren't as exposed quite as easily. Whereas now that he's out wide, if he goes in, goes for the big hit as he tends to do, and he misses, doesn't pull it off, gone, try time. And yeah, I think Sione's having some trouble out there in the centres.
I agree, and I tell you another player for me that I don't think's over the 4 games is one of the show's favourites, Barney. Barney's back. Barney's back under where I hope he would be.
Now, do you think that comes from the concussion against Canberra? He just hasn't looked right since then, Nagy. We discussed it last week.
I think he's showing the signs of not having a pre-season. He obviously finished the season very well last year. We hoped he was going to be a real forward pack leader. He's only a young guy. He's only about 24 years old. But I was expecting more. I was expecting more from him. Obviously, he made an error in a key time against the Dragons. He's just, for me, he hasn't looked dynamic when he's running the ball. He had always had a bit of he's already been a strong defender, but he always looked like he had a bit of a pass or an offload, or he'd go down the fringe and he would have that, hold the ball in 2 hands. We talked about it last season, that older style of footballer. But he's just not showing it. He's more of a tuck and run sort of a player at the moment. He's just, I don't know.
Which I agree. That was such a good part of his game last year, that take it to the line, the late pass to either the front rower or another edge back rower. He was really starting to incorporate that into his game well. But yeah, it seems like like you said, he's gone for the tuck. Yeah,
and it's very important that we also bring this up now for players, in the rotation, they're going up, they're going down. We have to obviously make a change, because a big thing for the 30 to 12 that we lost Tautau Moga, one of our key off-season signings, and he's done his ACL. This is the 4th time he's done his ACL, but there's a bit of good news that surfaced today, even though he's completely ruptured it and he'll be out for the whole season, which is very bad news. But if you've got to find a silver lining, is that he did this on his good knee. Now the reason why this is good news is because the 3 other times he'd done this on his other knee, his bad knee, as if you would. He's 24 years old. Now, if he'd
just a baby.
Yes, I know, but he looks like he might be 46.
He's aged horribly.
I think we might. One of those players that you have to sort of check the birth certificate when they were playing under 15s. Yeah, I think everyone will be checking the birth certificate, because I don't think he's 24. Maybe he's 24. Rings on the tree, and that's how he's marking him. But if he'd done this to the 4th time the same knee, there wouldn't be a surgeon in the land that would say you should go back and play contact sport again. He'd be done.
That's it. You'd be looking at retirement. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was concerned about that. I didn't see this silver lining, but I was effectively thinking that this is it for Tautau. It's got to be it, because that's 4, but it's the good knee, so we're all good. But still a 9 to 12 month recovery time, which we saw with Dylan Pythian. He had the 14-month recovery and then decided to do drugs. So let's hope Tautau doesn't dip into Dylan's medicine bag.
He's I think, for me, if he was 27, why would you risk it? He's got age on his side. He's a professional footballer. I can see what I think he's going to come through the rehabilitation of the Knights regardless. He's on a 3-year contract. He's going to come through. They're going to rehabilitate him as if he's going to play again. The Knights are obviously going to have his, especially with all the injury concerns that we've had previously, they're not going to play him if they feel like it's going to be a detriment to his health, whether it be mental health, physical health, whatever the case might be. But we will see Tautau Moga again.
In the red and blue.
In the red and blue.
Good.
Might be on the sideline, maybe running the waters. No, he's... Look, I think, from my own opinion, we'll see him again.
Well, with his knees, I hope he's walking the waters. Don't run, Tautau.
Well,
don't run.
The other thing that people might have said, he won't come back again. But I'll be rehashing. Look, I really think he will be back. On a knee, he's recovered this knee 3 times, like his bad knee. That's now, at the moment, his good knee. Bear with me here. But for someone that knows that you can recover, and when we signed him, when he was playing, he never looked like a player that was playing on bad knees. He looked dynamic, he looked quick, he could change direction fast. I think the fact that he's done this injury 3 times before, he knows how to rehab it, he knows how to come back bigger, better, stronger, and I think he will.
And you're right, he was playing dynamically after the 3 knee reconstructions. He seems to have the mental side of the recovery sorted, so... Best wishes to Tautau, and hopefully we'll be seeing him next year back on the field.
Yeah, wish him a speedy recovery. Look, we're going to have a quick halftime break, and then we're going to be back with all of Spiegelman, the Hebrew Hammers stats. We'll be right back, Jousters. So it's just, at the Commonwealth Hotel for our very first birthday, the Joust first birthday. Liam, how are you feeling?
Look, I'm feeling good. I'm excited. I'm enthused. I'm over the moon to be here celebrating with some friends, drinking some beers, and about to watch some footy.
We're going to come inside and check out a few of the Knights fans, a few of the Jousters, to see how they're feeling about the evening. So let's step inside and have a look. We're here with Oscar Gallagher. Oscar, obviously a Dragons fan. How are you feeling about the day? How do you feel about the game coming up?
Well, I think it's going to be a great game, a great clash, classic clash. I think the Dragons are going to come out ahead, but I think the Knights have something that they can bring to it. I think the Knights could surprise people this evening.
I think you might be onto something there, Oscar. But also, how do you feel about being the Joust first birthday?
I'm a Dragon, but they are my second side, and the Joust, fantastic for the city, fantastic for the Knights. It's a great thing. Very excited.
All right, mate. You just stop that. Get your tongue out of my ass, mate. All right, we're here for the Joust. We'll speak to some more people soon. We're here with Jacob Small. Jacob, how are you feeling about the game tonight?
Loving it.
Very good. All right. So, how about you feel about? How do you think the Knights' season's going to go today?
Well, last couple of weeks hasn't been too good.
No.
But there's always potential. In life, there's always potential. But to be honest, it's not looking too good at all. I'm a bit disappointed.
Obviously, the scores at the moment isn't representing what we'd like to see for the Knights. We're a couple of points down. Do you think we can do it with 20 minutes to go?
I was about 15 minutes, but absolutely. Absolutely. It's easy, mate, easy. Penalties.
Penalties to the Knights or against the Knights?
No, 2 or 4 the Knights. Just give us points. I don't care how we get them. Just want to win.
You've heard it here first. Jousters, Jacob Small wants them to win.
Joust, we've got a huge, very, very special treat for you here. Joust alumni Nathan Wright here to watch the game against the Dragons with. Righty, what are you thinking, mate? What's going on at the moment?
Not a great deal, I've got to say. I can tell you one thing, there's 2 teams out there today and there's one that's got more points, and I think that means something in this game.
Look, Righty, is it safe to say that Jesus Christ did not die for the Knights' sins today?
They did die for my sins, that's for sure. Everything has been forgotten over this long weekend, but the Knights have a lot to answer for at the moment, that's for sure.
Okay, good to hear from another good Christian boy, courtesy of the Joust, Nathan Wright. Thank you very much, Righty. Let's get pissed.
Always a pleasure. Here's to the Joust. Cheers.
Cheers.
Here we are with Ryan Murch. Murch, I've got to ask, not the result we wanted, but how do you feel?
Hard to say, mate. Hard to say. It's not the greatest of results, but we've had that win at the start of the season. But a couple of games in, what do you expect? Hey, against the Dragons, Dragons played really well last week, but Knights played well, but not the greatest. But what are you thinking about it, Nate?
Well, it was really drawn out way to say that we didn't get the win on the day, but I tell you what, the Dragons had a pretty good day. So thanks very much, Birch. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Jousters. That's the end of our birthday. We didn't get the result we wanted, but I tell you what, I can't thank the Commonwealth Hotel enough for having us. Liam, how do you feel about tonight?
Look, it's a wonderful venue, and we didn't get the result we wanted, but, the Joust was born on Knights losing. We celebrated our first year on Knights losing, and hopefully we won't be seeing the Knights losing too much more. Thank you very much.
We may have died, but we'll be born again. Thank you very much. This is Easter out.
Might be a bit more with my rant.
Oh, Jesus. Welcome back to the second half of the Joust. Wasn't that a fun time at the Commie, Liam?
Oh, it was a wonderful afternoon. Very great evening. Thank you very much, Stu and Kath, for hosting us.
All the team. They were such a friendly team. Thank you everyone for coming along and being a part of it. Now, Liam, we have a special edition of our stats, our stat time from the very own Hebrew Hammer. Hebrew Hammer. Beautiful harmonies.
Gorgeous song. Yes, look, as he does every week, Josh Spiegelman has put out his stats for the week, and they tend to make some pretty dire reading for the week. But I'm going to start with some positives. The Pong, as we mentioned earlier, is leading the Dally M count, which basically means he's the best player in the competition. Team high, 170 metres. He made 10 tackle busts, which, again, he's just proving almost untackleable, and 1 try assist, which is very good. But then the rest of the stats are not quite so gorgeous. Now, it starts we're falling into the trap that we fell into a bit last year. There was 13 errors. We only had a 67% completion rate. There was knock-ons, there was forward passes. It's not a good enough completion rate to be winning rugby league games, 67%.
Now, that's like what we when we were winning games against Canberra and against Manly, we were competing with set completions. So more at the highest of the comp, I think, after 2 rounds. So it's obviously that's reflective of, not necessarily because we're also conceding 30 points, but we're conceding lots of points against Canberra and Manly as well. But it's just completions of sets which leading to our points.
And it led to we only had 42% of the possession. Percent of the possession, 42%, and we had to make it 79 more tackles. Now, my maths is not very good, but I believe that's an extra 13 sets we had to defend.
I was going to say
13 sets of tackles more than our opposition we had to make. That's a lot.
And they're tiring.
It's tiring.
Yeah.
And it's fatiguing us, and it allows their forwards to really come into the game. They ended up running for, if I can find my statistics, 400 and something metres more than us. Sorry, Josh, my handwriting's not great. 450 metres more than us.
Yeah,
and again, all that backpedaling and working in defence, it just tires the team out.
Yeah, and it does. And like obviously, their forward pack, their starting pack, is arguably the best in the comp. At the start of the year, I would have said Canberra's is the best in the comp, but Canberra's just not standing up to anything at the moment. The Dragons are. If you look at that, James Graham, Paul Vaughan, their back row of Jack DeBellin, Tarek Sims, who's a bit of a P-heart, but he did get that try against us. He's a big body, and he does run well down the side. That whole starting forward pack is just scary.
Well, as you mentioned, Graham, he ran for an amazing 176 metres, but also was the danger man that we very astutely, ladies and gentlemen, pointed out last week. Nene McDonald, Nagy, you want to get his name again?
I can't say it. Even if
Nene. Ran for 179 metres. I don't know how many tries he scored, but it was quite a few. Maybe one.
I think it was 2.
I think it was 2. It was more than he should have. But the other thing as well, we're having to make a lot more tackles, but we're also tackling somewhat ineffectively. We're currently leading the NRL across the first 4 rounds with ineffective tackles. We've made 81 ineffective tackles across the first 4 rounds.
I like to be leading stats as much as the next fat
Not
person.
that one.
But that one is not one we want to be leading. Ineffective tackles, as it sounds like. And that also is our word of the week. Ineffective tackles, and I can't find the right thing, so it might be wrong. Ineffective tackles.
We moved on from effort areas last week. We're talking now ineffective tackles. And again, the offloads. Dragons, 15 offloads, absolutely killed us. They got that second phase rolling, which the Dragons have been known to do last season especially, and they've really carried that on into this season, but now they've got a set of halves and a back line who can operate really well off those effective offloads.
Yeah, no, and look, full credit to Dragons doing well, but also they are a bit of the April premiers, as they have been the last couple of seasons, and they don't come up with they don't cut the mustard later on. So hopefully that's still the case.
Another saying I don't understand. No one cuts mustard.
I know, you sort of scoop
it's
it.
It's a powder, or it's a semi-liquid. You scoop.
You scoop it, even with a knife. You sort of, it's like...
Well, I guess to create the mustard, you have to... you kind of mush the mustard.
You mush the mustard.
You mush them, mortar and pestle.
I don't think they'll be mushing the mustard later on.
They won't be mushing the mustard. But who might mush the mustard will be the Brisbanes. The Brisbane Broncmans.
Yes.
Now, of course, Hebrew Hammer's given us some big stats.
Huge stats.
For the Broncos to look out for. Now, we've got some danger men. Danger men's one of the first danger men, obviously, is the P-Hart's brother. The other P-Hart.
The
Corbin.
other Sims, yeah.
And now Corbin's leading them with 10.1 metres per run. He's making some very good yardage. And we really need to move up on him very quickly.
Yeah.
Shut down his line speed so he can't make those big runs. And averaging it out, Josh Maguire is making 8 runs a game, and he's averaging 10.3 metres across those 8 runs. So they're 2 players we really need to get up quick in defence, shut down.
And I tell you who did that really well last year. Was that I put a beautiful shot on right in the middle of the paddock was Josh King on pretty much on the player that came in for Corbin Sims when he did the walkout of the club, and he put a beautiful shot on him, and in front of it, in the home crowd, it was. Unfortunately, he's not playing in this game, and that's a player that I would like to see step up later on, especially maybe a Jacob Lilymoon.
I still dream about that tackle. It was amazing. It was so nice, right in front of the drinking hill.
Yeah, you could hear when you hear the thump. It's
The other one we got to look out for now, there's a few more. Darius Boyd, he's leading the team with 0.5 line break assists per game. So he's getting some players through the line. He's poking his nose through. He also seems to be suffering the ill effects of a hamstring injury. So again, if we put pressure on Darius, they might not break the line quite so much.
Look, I think like Darius Boyd is one of those players. He's out of form at the moment. The whole team's out of form. Brisbane. They didn't score a try against Tigers, even though they came over the win, and they just got dusted up by the Titans. This is the time we should be, getting one over on them. This is the best time to be playing them, in my opinion, of the season.
Absolutely. And again, we come back to the offloads. Now, this has been something the Knights have been fairly weak at defending against. The offloads, especially St. George got, I think, 15 offloads away against us. Anthony Milford is getting away 2.5 offloads per game. We need to wrap him up. We need to get numbers in the tackle. We need to really shut him down.
We leak points both in Manly and Canberra to offloads. We don't do well against broken play, and we can't respond well with offloads. We're not an offloading side because we make errors. Sides that just find hands can play that offloading game. We can't really play that ad-lib football. We must build pressure. So we can't, we have to shut them down because we can't compete with them in that sort of offloading game.
But it's not all so bad and murky and disgusting, Aggie. There is a few little weaknesses in Brisbane that we can attack. Now, Alex Glenn. Now, this is not like Alex Glenn. When I read the stats, I was a bit surprised, and I had to read it a second time. Alex Glenn is missing 4.5 tackles per game. He's usually a very good, very dependable edge defender, but he seems to be falling off a lot of tackles. Now, I'm not sure which edge he defends on, but we've got some very, very good edge runners in Lockie Fitzgibbon and Aiden Guerra. They both run great lines on the edges there, and I think we really could benefit. It could behoove us if we send those two, or either one, whichever one's on that side, just straight at Alex Glenn. Late footwork, slip past his shoulder. We could be making a few breaks down there.
It could be stupendous, may even be superfluous. Which is one better than stupendous.
It's much better as well. It's only one better, but it's much better. Nicarima as well. He's the cause of 0.8 line breaks per game, so his defence could do with a bit of work. He's only a little man, so sending some big bodies at him, we could, again, and we send the big bodies who can offload. They get the arms free, pop the ball to our support, which hopefully the Pong will be there, as all good fullbacks should. We know Mitchell Pearce will be there because he's a great supporting halfback. He runs a great support line.
That's something I probably wished I saw more of Mitchell Pearce, and we nearly got it in that game at that half-time point, which I mentioned before, is that his running game, his support play is excellent, and he knows where to pop up, and that's something that I hope to see more of Mitchell Pearce.
And Jermaine Isaka, now he's the member of the back three we need to target. He's averaging 1.8 errors per game. He did kick the Broncos to victory against the Tigers, but with the ball coming at him, he can be a bit shaky. So I think he's the player you really target with Pearce's big kicking game, his big old bombs and the deft little...
Oh, bombs. I thought you said bones, and I was like, big old bones. And
He's just regular-sized bones.
Regular-sized bones. But he has big old bombs too,
He does, yeah. So that's kind of our targets and the danger men for the Broncos. And again, many thanks to Josh Spiegelman, the Hebrew Hammer.
Thank you very much for those stats, Josh. You can catch all of his stats and also on his blog at joshspiegelman.wordpress.com. Fantastic. But now, Liam, very important time. Now it's time for you to unzip those pants and bring out your sack.
I've already had it out for hours, Nagy. But lots of good questions again this week, users. And the volume of material in the sack has become such that I've had to combine a few all together. But I'll try and get you all in sackers. You're called the Sackers now. First one, very simple one. Liam Burton, replacement for Moga. Nagy.
Well, we're short on centres. We're short on centres at the start of the season, and that's why we're seeing someone like Sione, who wasn't an effective centre the first time, come in. He had success at the back row, but obviously the old head trauma didn't stand up, and we were trying to lengthen his career because I think he's only 12 years old. I think he's only 21.
Freshly 12.
He's amazing that he's only so young, but he seems like he's been around for so long. But we're light on centres. The team list got released today, and it looks like that Ken Sears coming into the side on the wing, and our very own Nathan Ross is going to go in the centres. Now, this is a position where Nathan Ross has played City Country before. He prefers to play in the centres. He likes to get in and around the ball. For me, I would have preferred to see SKD there. I just think he's played more time at NRL level at centre, and I think Nathan Ross can be a fantastic finisher on the wing. But we're thin. But I'd like to see also maybe a Naden or Corey Dennis come up from ISP.
Well, this leads into our next question, and Johnny Chino Boatswain and Jim Steltonpool, I've sort of combined your question into a beautiful Frankenstein's monster of questions. Will our edge defence tighten up Is Ross and CEO a long-term solution to the centre problem? And should we hit the market? We do have Jesse Ramian signed for next year, but do we hit the market perhaps for a short-term solution to the centre conundrum?
I think we've got to keep our eyes open. I know there's an exciting outside back playing for the Tigers right now in Reggie's, and that's David Nofaluma. And he obviously it'd be a great buy to get mid-season. We do have money, but he is in a long-term contract with the Tigers. It'd be hard to. I wouldn't want to pay too much. However, I think the Ken CEO hasn't been setting the world on fire in Reggie's, and he's now been called up to first grade. He's a quiet player. We don't expect much from him, but he can finish well. He did get that double against Parramatta, and hopefully we can see some more of that from him.
Well, that's it. You know what you're going to get from Ken Seo? He's a reliable performer. He, again, often doesn't set the world alight, but he does perform reliably. He does his job well, and I think outside of Ross, they're going to have a bit better communication, I think, and it might just tighten that edge up. Should we hit the market? We do have the cap space, but I don't know that we bother. I mean,
don't rush into something that unless it's a player that's going to fit
exactly.
This side,
And Ramian's showing some great form. He was about the only shining light in that Sharks Storm game the other day, which I've got more to say about later.
Yeah.
But I think we don't hit the market yet. Like you said, we've got Dennis coming through. We've got Naden coming through. There's a few promising youngsters that can plug the gap till next year. You've got to remember, it's Nick Meaney as well.
Nick Meaney's obviously into Tom Hughes, I think, as well as around there. Like, these are all players that I think would be better fit to try before we hit the market. It's only early.
That's it. You've got to remember, all part of Brownie's thing is it's a long-term, it's a project. This isn't just, a little bit of homework to do and hand in the next day. This is a long-term project. Next question. Yusuf Gabriel and Marcus Harborn. I see what I've done here. I've done the same thing. I've combined the two questions. What's going on with the Rossi? With Rostock? Where's the fire gone? He's having a quiet season so far.
Look, he and SKD both aren't seeing the ball to score tries. We haven't had those sweeping back plays that are finishing with the wingers. So, a couple of tries and suddenly their running games have been fine. Both making over 100 metres, around about 140, I think, off 17 runs, both similar post-contact metres. There's nothing wrong with the running game. I think it's their centres that are having, like, both Sione and then Tau replacing with Brewer. They're making the defensive errors. They're coming in, and of course, you only watch where the unmarked player goes, and you assume because the unmarked player is outside of the winger, they must have been Rossi and they must have been SKDs.
It's the inside man's fault.
It all starts somewhere, and you can say they're rushing in. There's lots of pressure. There's pressure on Rossi right now, but I have faith in that he's a performer. He loves playing at home, and hopefully you get a try down on Rossi's corner.
And I think the other thing you got to look at with Rossi as well, in the last few years, he's essentially been one of the senior clubmen. He, at only 27, he's been one of the senior.
I think he's 29.
29.
Yeah.
However old he is. He's been one of the senior members of the team. He's had to step up and do a lot more work. I think you're seeing now that he can step back a bit. He doesn't have to take a lot of those hard runs because they can be shared around. Yeah. So I think that responsibility's been taken off him a bit. He doesn't need to do quite as much as he has had to in the past.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why he's been a bit quiet. He's been a bit off, but we still love him. Look, we love the Rostock.
We love the Rostock here, and I have full faith that he's going to have a really good game against Brisbane.
Now, Sugar Shane Carter, avid listener of the show, first-time questioner.
Sucrose
Shane.
Sucrose Shane.
Has the rot set back in, Nagy? Do you want to yell at him?
Yeah, like, I tell you what, Shane, you obviously you're a Storm supporter, mate. Like, and you come in here and antagonise
Talk
us.
about rot.
Yeah,
he used to be a Knight supporter. Note from our producer.
Thank you very much, Elliot, for that keynote. But you walked away from the club to go to greener pastures, right? And you're talking about the rot setting in. Have you seen the age of your players and the performances they've been putting in, mate? The rot is setting in their joints, all right? We'll touch more on the Storm game soon, but please, we're growing and you're dying.
Perfect summation. I have nothing to add. Now, our very own Hebrew Hammer. Want some quick fire predictions from us. Now, Nagy, I'm going to throw these predictions to you and I'm going to offer my own.
Yep.
Broncos at home.
I think we will just scrape over because we're at home. The home ground advantage will get us, but it'll be a high point scoring game. I'm thinking 30-20.
Agreed. Storm away at there.
We've had some pretty good performances against them, but I don't think we're going to... currently, we're leaking too many points. Storm can score too many points. Knights first half, Storm second half.
Agreed. We've been a bit of a bogey team down there, but I think the form the Storm are in and the form we'll be taking, I think the Storm have a point to prove. I think they'll get it. Tigers at home, Nagy. This is a doozy.
No, this is not Tigers at home. This is Tigers in Tamworth.
Oh, Tigers in Tamworth. It is a home game, technically, but in Tamworth, great town.
I think we can beat the Tigers. I don't think they're playing that crash hot. I think they're being a bit lucky at the moment with their form. I think their position on the table is probably flattering them a little bit. I think they're waiting to slip up. I think they're just playing. They're not realising why they're winning, and that was showing in the second half against Parramatta.
I don't know about that. I think Ivan's done a great job with them. I think this is the danger game. Out of all the games we're about to preview, that's the danger game for me. I think the Tigers could really do a number on us. They've shown they can defend like crazy. They've now put some attack on against Parramatta, albeit it was against Parramatta. But still, I think that's going to be a danger game. But look, with the Tamworth crowd behind us, I think we can get it. Manly away at Brookie.
Look, the way Manly's playing at the moment, I think we got them early, we got them good. They were just in that game, was tit for tat. At the moment, their form looks better than us, but they did lose 2 players, 2 back rowers, as well as if they don't have...
Sirinen and Tanganoa gone for the season.
And if they don't have Tommy Turbo back by that point, they're going to lack a lot of attacking ability there because they don't have really an effective 5'8". They've got Cherry Evans and Tommy Turbo putting all their points on, in my opinion. So
Jake Turbo as well is chiming in with a lot of points, a lot of assists. He's playing a third 5'8".
No, he's coming off the back of a runner. He's just a butcher in a in a footballer's clothes.
What's it with you and thinking he's a butcher?
He looks like a butcher.
Yes, but I think Manly, they've got a point to prove in that game. They'll want to make up for round 1. I think they might get us there, especially at home there at Lotto Land.
Revenge game.
Now, South's at home.
South, we haven't had good luck against South the last few games, and we've South managed to put lots of points on us. Look, the way that they're playing at the moment, I know Alex Johnson always has a blinder against us. Sam Burgess always has a blinder. Look, it'd be one of those wins that can really turn the table. So fingers crossed for that we get the win there, but I have to go with South.
I think with the home crowd, we can get it. Gags, I think, will stand up. He'll have a great game. I really hope if anyone at Hunter Stadium boos Dan Gago, I'll have words with him because he was a great servant to the club. He's performed very well. So if you boo Dane Gago, I'll be having words. Yep, but I think we can get him. I think we can get Souths at home.
Thank you very much for the... I can close your sack now, Liam. That was a great sack. Quick fire sack.
Quick fire.
I like that. Thanks very much, Speaks. Now, Liam, what do you have the time, Liam?
Time for the news.
Yes, now Liam, you've been bubbling. You've been bubbling at the seams. That definitely doesn't happen at the seams, but you've been bubbling away, thinking about this. You gave me a message early on in the week, and you said I have to talk about this. Now, Liam, you have the floor.
Now, the news. We have to discuss the so-called penalty crisis that's going on in the NRL. Now, I have a number of points to cover. First of all, Vossi brought it up and he summed it up brilliantly. The sheer and utter hypocrisy of the people who are calling the refs all the terrible names under the sun. Now, I recall last year, these were the same people who were saying the game's being ruined by offsides. They're saying the game's being ruined by the slowing down in and around the ruck. And now the refs are finally cracking down on it. And all of a sudden, these people think that it's the referees that are ruining the game. No, that is a bunch of... Sorry, pardon the language. That is a bunch of absolute bullshit. At a certain point, it becomes incumbent on the players and the coaches. The players and the coaches are the ones who are committing the errors. They are the ones who are infringing upon the rules of the game. It's incumbent upon them to not be penalised. Now, this came to a head for me in the Sharks versus Storm game. I was what's the opposite of pleasure?
Unpleasured.
I was unpleasured enough to watch the game on Channel 9, and with God as my witness, I tell you I will never watch rugby league on Channel 9 again. First of all, the way the commentators discussed that game was absolutely horrifying and disgusting. I was shocked and chagrined, Nagy. I was shocked and I was chagrined. In the last 10 minutes, they did not discuss rugby league once. All Gus Gould did was bitch and moan about all these penalties that he's been calling for years. What's the first thing you hear when you get to any rugby league game and they kick the ball off?
A whistle.
No. Get them on side, referee. That's the first thing Todd Greenberg hears when he wakes up in the morning. Is the last thing he hears before he goes to bed. We've been calling for it for years, and now it's finally happening, and these supposed doyens of the game, your Gus Goulds and your Fatty Vortons, are finally getting what they've wanted, and they're turning around and pinning it on the refs, saying that they're ruining the game. It pissed me off to no end, and I almost threw my beer at Uncle Brian's very expensive projector and ruined it. I'm glad that I didn't, but I almost wish that I had. I had to walk out of the room. I was very upset. And the Sharks and the Storm, that was one of the worst examples of rugby league I've ever seen. And you know what? They played it just to shit off the refs. Again, Gus and Fatty at the end of the game, they came out and said, the refs have ruined this game. That was the worst game of rugby league I've watched this year. Yes, it was the worst game of rugby league this year. But you know why? Because it was two teams who have built huge success on the backs of flouting the rules and at times outright cheating. And they're finally getting called on their bullshit. And you know what? They played like spoiled, petulant fucking kids who've had their toys taken from them, thrown out of the cot, and it showed. Cameron Smith showed his true colours. He finally didn't get the run of the game, and you know what? He mouths off at the ref. He gets sent for 10. It was a bunch of absolute bullshit. One of the worst arguments for the game of rugby league I've ever seen. But for me, it actually strengthened my will that I hope the refs continue with this crackdown. And if anything, I think they need to get stricter. They've used the sin bin quite a lot, but they need to get stronger on it. And after 3 to 4 penalties, etc., we've discussed it, send someone. Otherwise, you are going to get games devolving into an absolute disgusting shit show of cynical rugby league like I saw in that Storm... What's the other team? Sharks game.
Yeah.
It was absolutely disgusting, and the outrage at the refs is completely misguided, completely hypocritical, and it's being thrown in all the wrong directions. We need to look at the coaches and the players and say, fucking smarten up. You are the ones infringing. You are the ones who need to fix the problem. The referees are doing their job. They're finally doing it after years and years. We've been calling for this crackdown. It's finally happening, and people are losing their shit about it. Rugby league fans, I know, have short memories, but this is getting out of control. And I back the refs. I back the NRL saying it. And Jesus Christ.
Thank you very much. The first Liam rant of the season.
It shan't be the last.
Now, Liam, I have to agree with you. We've been calling for a crackdown for years. Tidy up the play the ball, tidy up the line speed, no offsides, and that when they were calling it, then you had the bitch and moaning of the commentators. What I really don't like is because you're watching this game live, the commentators are influencing the opinion on the game. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't see this in other sports and other codes of football. You don't see this. You don't see this disrespect with the referees. The rules in rugby league are pretty black and white. Not across the board, but like for offsides, ruck, all these things, black and white. And when they're going to be penalised on them, that referee was a Chechen. Checking. He stuck to his guns. He refereed that game same time. He didn't let, as Crow said when he was here, the game sort of they set the pace and then they play to the referee. Like they mold the referee and say, this is how the game's going to be played. We play at this speed. You can't penalise us every time we do it. And he did. So, look, it's going to be a moment in this season when we look back and think, okay, this is actually where teams have to realise that they can't win games. Teams like the Storm can't play around the referee and expect to come out with the 2 points.
And it's about bloody time, Nagy.
It's about bloody time. I agree. Now, I thought, Jesus, it took the wind out of my sails. I
can't breathe.
Oh, Jesus. Enough of the microphone. I'm getting this right in the ears. You think you got it bad where you're listening to? I got it right into the old...
I think you got a bit in the eye as well.
Yeah, I think I did. Now, but
flew out of the jaw there.
Liam, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you about rugby league. I think we need to hook you up with some sort of oxygen or IV. But restore the juice. But I'll tell you what will restore the juice to your veins and to all other facets of your body.
Crystal methamphetamine.
Is watching the Knights play the Broncos at... I was going to say McDonald Jones, but come on, it's Marathon Stadium. There we've got the 7:30 game on a Saturday. That's right, the Broncos aren't playing on a Friday, which is good. They're pretty much playing 2 away games. They're playing away from their home ground and away from their Friday night game. And it's good for us. We don't get that 6 o'clock game. Everyone's got plenty of time to get down there. We're expecting a bumper crowd. I'll be there. You'll be there. We're doing some interviews as well, so keep an eye out for us. I think it's going to be excellent. We'll probably hit the sunny side beforehand as well, but not as good as the Commonwealth Hotel.
No.
It's just because we can walk there. And
other people might be able to walk from the Commonwealth, but not us.
Not us, you see, no, because it's the weight that we carry. But I'll tell you what. Look, it's going to be a fantastic game. Keep an eye out for us. Come say hello if you see us, and we'll get you on. We'll do an interview if you want one. But Liam, if you want to see us each week, right here on Facebook,
in the Annie
Dome, look for us on the Joust Facebook page. Listen to us on SoundCloud as well as iTunes, and also keep an eye on the other pipes of the social variety.
We have Twitter, we have Instagram, all this cool stuff that the kids are using.
All of the children. I don't understand any of it, especially Twitter. I accidentally called Twitter Tinder the other day. They're 2 very different things. They said, I want to get a...
Cassie was very upset.
She wasn't happy with me at all. Now, thank you, Liam, for joining me once again. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm still a bit just taken aback from the rant. But now, we'll talk to you all soon, Jousters. It's been an absolute pleasure.